So I'll start off with my pre-intense mobility work, doing a little warm-up. So I'll do a little supination and pronation, hitting all the angles there. And what I really like to do is kind of make it an active process. So I'm going to actively pull, and then actively come back to that position, still with some tension on the foot and ankle, and then roll it in, just like that. And I'll do that on both feet several times, focusing on getting some nice range of motion. And then almost do some lift-offs here. So I'll roll, engage, lift up, roll, engage, lift up, and I'll hold that for a few seconds. And then I like to do a little scrunch and lift, spread out, come up to the toes, a little scrunch and lift. Do that a few times as well. Getting things ready. Alright, so then I like to get into some toe cars. So we're going to start off keeping the foot, try to keep the foot pretty neutral as you're doing this. Lift the big toe as much as you can, set it down. Do that several times. And the idea here is you want to try not to engage those lateral toes too much. So mine, I have to engage a little bit. I have to kind of push them down as I'm pulling my big toe up. So you just want to minimize that. And minimize that foot wanting to supinate as your big toe comes up. Just try to keep everything neutral. Then you're going to lift the lateral toes, spread them out, try to set them down one by one. Lift the lateral toes, spread out, try to set them down one by one. And here what you're going to notice is lifting those toes, those lateral toes, and spreading them out. Your foot's probably going to want to try to pronate a little bit. So try to keep it neutral. You can do this seated to make it a little easier, but really try and engage your hip and screw that foot into the ground. That might help. All right, after that, I like to do a little scrunching of the toes, lift them up, press them down. This just feels good. I like getting those feet moving. Spread them out, come up. I might do this for 30 seconds or a minute, switching between these two. Just feels good to spread things out and scrunch them up. Alright, so next up is the ankle cars. And for this, what you're going to do is you can hold your shin to help lock it in, but the idea is you don't want your shin to move or really anything else. It's just the ankle. So I like to just hold my knee up like this, hold my shin, and draw a really nice big circle with that big toe, exploring every angle. So you want this to be as big a range as you can make it. And if you find any challenging or limited positions, you can spend a little more time on those. And just be mindful of where the most tension is, where it's most difficult, and if you have any discomfort or pain, you want to try and shorten that range so that you stay in a pain-free range. And hopefully over time, you can expand that pain-free range. So another part of the warm-up I like to do here before getting into the really tough stuff is squat down. So we're doing kind of closed chain ankle cars here. So load up the feet a little bit, and I'm just going to use my foot and ankle muscles to pull me in a nice big rotation. So I'm trying not to use just a shift of weight here. I'm really trying to actively pull myself into the different positions. And after I've done a few of these, maybe 3 to 5 each direction, just go up under the toes, come back down, go up under the toes, back down, getting things ready for what's to come. PARs, and after I'm fully prepared, I'm going to get into some PAIL's rails. So progressive angular isometric loading and regressive angular isometric loading. So I'm going to start with a straight leg dorsiflexion. So knees straight. I'm going to find an angle that I can control first. So find an angle I can lift off, and that's my active range right now. So that's where I'm going to start. I'm going to hold this stretch while I breathe deeply for 1 to 2 minutes. I'm not going to go through the entire process here, but I'm going to kind of shorten it up. So after 1 to 2 minutes of a passive stretch, I'm going to irradiate. I'm going to create tension throughout my body, let it spread down to my leg. I'm going to drive that foot into the couch. Drive it in as if I'm trying to increase this angle. I want this angle to become bigger. That's my goal here as I'm pressing into the couch. But I'm not going to let it move. So I'm pressing, pressing, pressing. That's the progressive angular isometric loading. So I'm not moving, but the intent is to progress that angle. After about 10 to 15 seconds of a nice hard contraction, I'm going to gradually shift to the opposite. So now, relax, and I'm going to pull, with the intent to close this angle now, the regressive angular isometric loading. So I'm going to pull, not using my weight, but using the muscles to actively pull into that new range. Another 10 to 15 seconds, and I'm going to relax in the new range, hold that for about another minute, and then repeat the process. Next up, after the straight leg version of the dorsiflexion, I'm going to go into a bent knee version for the PAIL rails. So I like to set up here, kneeling down. I like to get right next to a couch. Works really well because you can create a lot of tension. They don't move too easily, and a strong contraction. So I'm going to find, again, that range where I can control initially and start there. So lift off. That's about the range I want to start in. And here, about 2 minutes passive stretch. Breathe nice and deeply. Once you've done that stretch, start to create some tension. Grab onto that couch, tighten everything, let it spread down to the foot, and you're going to go into that PAIL's contraction, progressive angular isometric loading. So I'm going to drive down, and my aim is to increase this angle, to drive that angle out, but I'm not going to let it happen. I'm going to push, keeping tension. You lift the couch if you must. Then, after about 10 to 15 seconds, I'm going to ease off, and I'm going to pull further into the stretch, the regressive angular isometric contraction. So now I'm trying to close this angle. So I'm going to pull in, pulling. Another 10 to 15 seconds once I reach that max contraction. All right, really engaging the front of the foot and the shin. And once I'm there, I'm going to relax, breathe, repeat the process. So another 1 to 2 minute stretch, followed by the PAILs and rails. Okay, so for that bent knee dorsiflexion, sometimes that can be pretty tough on the knees. So for a lot of people, that position is just not comfortable for either this knee or actually the knee that you're kneeling on. So one way you can modify that and still get the same stimulus is by doing it just like we did with the straight knee. So you position yourself here and then drive that knee forward to wherever you can control, and that's going to be your start position. So you go through the same PAILs rails process just like we did from the kneeling position, but this is a lot less stress on both knees. So good option if you have cranky knees or pain. Alrighty, so after the dorsiflexion, we're going to now work on plantar flexion. So it's the opposite. We worked that, now we're going to work that. Hit that, now we're going here. So I end up in a pretty similar position actually. I'm just working the opposite ankle. So I'm going to try and point straight back and not let it turn in too much, because that's what I need to work on the most. It may be different for you. So from this position, like the others, I'm going to find a position that I can control. So I'm going to rock back, engage, lift off. So that's the angle I'm going to start with. That's where I have control. Just like the other positions, I'm going to breathe nice and deeply, hold for about a 2-minute stretch. And once I'm there, I'm going to create tension, irradiate, let it spread to my leg, and I'm going to press the foot down into the floor. So I'm going to press like this. I'm pressing down into the floor as hard as I can, building it up. Once I hit that max contraction, I'm going to try and hold that about 10 to 15 seconds. And then I'm going to reverse, and I'm going to point the toe further. Really work to try and point further and flatten this angle. Pull, pull, pull. I'm going to feel all of this engage. I'm tightening everything on this side of the leg, pulling, and then I'm going to relax. And just like the other positions, I'm going to repeat that process 2 to 3 more times.